Greetings and welcome everyone. Welcome back to the From the Depths Vehicle Designer. As I told you in the last episodes on the campaign, now that we're fighting up against the Onyx Watch, it is time for us to make a new ship. A ship built specifically to meet the Onyx Watch's castle ships on the fields of battle or the oceans of battle, as the case may be. So something powerful, something big. And we're going to start with this. So let's bring this up. Now, I've got a fairly specific idea of what I want from this design. I want something so vast that I can walk around it. That's the biggest, most important part of this, is that I want to be able to walk inside the ship. It needs to be huge. Let's build this out a little bit. There we go. Now, along the sides, let's shave this back. There we go. And then down there as well. This ship is going to... Well, I've got a specific idea for the weapon systems, and I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to go with this. It's going to have some very heavy cannons. But the other thing it's going to need is something a little bit more sparkly. Something a little bit more wow. I'm going to build something that specifically counters the Onyx Watch's law. They don't like shields, they don't like lasers because they are energy inefficient. Well, that's pretty much exactly what I intend to give them. But I'm going to start with a fairly simple part, the engine. I want an engine that I can walk around. That is actually a very, very important part of this design for me. I want something that I can walk down into the engine room. So we're going to start with that. Let's go ahead, go to engine. This is going to be a powerful engine. I need it to be a powerful engine. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to do any of the things that I want to do. This has got to be producing obscene amounts of energy. I'm probably not going to make it this big. Actually, I take that back. I probably am. Okay, right. Cylinder. Now, the thing with this is I'm going to build this engine up using the... where are we? The left and right to up connector. This is going to allow me to fit the largest number of cylinders onto this that I can. So now we just go backwards. Effectively, the left and right to up connector allows you to connect something on top of it directly to the left or right of the piece. So, for example, here, we're trying to connect directly to the crankshaft. So, all we do up here is this, all the way along. The more cylinders you add to an engine, the more powerful it becomes. It's one of the main reasons why, ideally, you want to make a single large engine rather than multiple small ones. If we look at that, with nothing else, it's already outputting 30,000 power. That's just absolutely crazy when you think about it. But we're going to go ahead and add carburetors all the way along this thing. And there we have it. The engine is complete. An enormous beast it is, though not as efficient as I could have made it. There are lots of ways I could have improved this. It's roughly doing, well, it's kind of doing okay. The ideal ratio is 2 superchargers to 3 fuel tanks, but I'm fairly far off that on some of the cylinders. I need to reconsider how I put this together in order to get the cylinders to all have that ratio, with respect to the fact that I'm now using more cylinders in the design than I typically did. But just under 2.5 million power output from this engine, which with my engineering level, quite a lot more. 4.3 million power. I think that should be enough to do, well, most of the things that I intend to do. Now then, as I said, I want this vehicle to be something that I can walk around. So I've started work on some steps. I've already made a prefab of this design, so we're going to be continuing this step design just by, well, stepping up, I suppose. And I think that should be good enough about there. So we want to take this up 5 again. There we are. All things are level. Now, This is going to be, I mean, if it isn't already obvious, this is going to be a crazy expensive build. And if you're wondering why I'm using the different alloy here, the reason for that is that I find that the color takes differently to different surfaces. And there's enough of a difference between metal alloy and metal that it creates a really nice effect, I feel, when you've got the two surfaces and you're painting them differently. Even if you paint them the same color, one is going to be much more vivid than the other, and I kind of like that effect on the whole. Now, I'm going to put a lot of effort into the look of this vehicle. This is going to be a flagship vehicle. I'm going to want to have this be relevant to my campaign for a very long time. It needs to earn its keep, as it were. Then I'm going to want that to go down there. We're going to create like pillars moving along here, I think. It'll be quite a nice effect, I think. Though it does take a little bit of extra time to do it. Now, this is going to be the engine room, and over in this direction we're going to have the resource gatherers. But the way I'm going to be building this vehicle, I'm going to try and approach it with a bit more of a real-world kind of design. You know, this is going to be a battleship of sorts, I suppose. And so I want the various compartments to be accessible, but be built in such a way that you could theoretically shut them off. Obviously, in this game, you're probably not going to need to. But I want to be able to shut down a certain section, close the bulkheads, and avoid losing the rest of the ship should it be flooding. There we go. That should give me a nice kind of effect moving along there. Yeah, that actually looks really nice. Those pillars will look fantastic. Now, let's go back to the alloy beam, build this out, a nice long walkway. Down there, we'll have some sort of resource gathering area. We may even close the resource gathering area off thinking about it. Maybe have... we could actually instead use that, perhaps. Yeah, actually, I kind of like this. I do kind of like it. Let's grab you and sink this down there. And then... yeah, we'll have another one there. Draw this in. I think what we'll do is we'll have a downward slope going down like this. Now, usually I cut out a lot of the shaping in my building videos. But as this is intentionally, you know, flat out from the get-go, I know this is going into the design playlist. I assume that most people who check out the design playlist actually want to see me designing the vehicles, so I'm going to leave it in this instance. So we're going to actually watch this take shape together. Oops, that was a bit derpy. There we go. And we're going to want a inverted section there. Perfect. Now this over here will be a door, but it'll have a second layer of metal, I guess, around the inside. This is going to be a fairly important area. This is going to be a storage room and production area. So we'll probably have ammo going in here as well. So this light weight alloy there is not going to cut it. We're going to want something much, much more potent. But for the sake of building this up, making it look nice, we can still do these sorts of things. Something along this sort of line, like so. Yeah, I like that. And then these pillars there. Okay, that looks good. That'll be the end of this sort of corridor. We'll continue having a walkway round behind. That'll look pretty cool. But the upper area over here will have this lined with these blocks, because this is probably going to be... I'm trying to think of how I'm going to put all of the necessary rooms in this. And I think this would be where we're going to have our AI set up. So... actually, we want it to be a little bit longer then as well, like so, and there we are. So this will be our AI room. So what I'm thinking is we'll have a bulkhead door here, and same on the other side, leading into a room, maybe with windows looking down into the engine room. We'll have a bulkhead door over here somewhere, leading along the walkway that goes behind the room back there. Down here, I'm not really sure what we're going to do over here. We could just have a space, honestly. There's no, you know, with a vessel this large, we can actually afford to have quite a lot of room in here and make it look really like some sort of Warhammer 40k Space Hulk kind of thing. Large domed ceilings, chapels, and all this sort of stuff. It's going to look grand. But so far, all we've got is the engine room, and I'm fairly happy with where that's sitting. The last thing I need to do is add in a little bit of regular metal at the back here. Now, as with a lot of my builds recently, I'm not going to paint this initially because I want to leave that up to anyone who might download it. I'm going to try to be much more proactive with getting my designs up on the workshop for the foreseeable future. So as soon as I finish it, I'm going to try and put it up on the workshop, and then I'll just continually update it as the need arises. So there we are. There's our first little bulkhead there, leading into what will eventually be an armored resource room back here. We could even replace the flooring over here, perhaps. Yeah, I suppose we could from there onwards. Yeah, we could actually get all of that set up, but we would want doors at the top, about there, maybe about here, perhaps, leading in, and then we'll have windows looking out on everything else. I think that will look quite nice. Now, along the ledges, I've seen this. I can't remember where I saw it, but it always stuck with me. That such an elegant way of doing this is that we'd have glass blocks locked in that direction to look like railings. I really like this idea. It was very elegant in my opinion. So there we are. So we've got glass railings leading down into the enormous engine room of this gigantic vessel. Now I'm going to work on adding a couple of the other rooms. This thing is going to be enormous. I mean, I've said that word so many times, but really it is going to be gigantic. So this is going to be a very long build, probably a 2, maybe even 3 episode affair. So I'm going to try and cut out a lot of this, the planning stage, and just bring you back to show you what I'm building and where it's going to go. So I shall bring you back shortly. And welcome back to... Well, I'm starting to feel very confident that this is more or less going to be the engine room now. I've still got to add the ceiling. I didn't want to box it in because it would be very difficult, or at least it would be more difficult to show it off. Also, I haven't really quite decided on what I'm going to do with this end section over here. But at the moment, it would probably just sink to the bottom of the ocean if I took it off caps lock. But I wanted to show you what I've done. I've really gone... I'll get rid of the mirror line because it'll make it a little bit easier. I've really gone for this sort of very ornate, very imperial and lavish kind of look. Kind of a temple ship, if you like. Sort of a hybrid between Warhammer 40,000 and maybe the Amar from Eve. I already have a good idea of how I'm going to paint this. But this is the vast engine in the sort of engine room, which would... I'm thinking of kind of going with more of a sort of religious kind of naming for it. So it wouldn't be the engine room. It would be some sort of a room you might find in a cathedral or a chapel or something along those lines. I've done a lot of work with shaping the pillars, making them look extra fancy. We have these pillars going along here to the bulkhead, which would lead into this corridor. It's probably not going to be as fancy, though. It's not going to be as utilitarian as this. I'll probably add some shape to it, some sort of sloping blocks here and there. But over here, we have the lush glass railings over which you can peer down into the vast engine choir, the chorus rising from the belly of the ship, the song of the ship. Maybe we'll have some sort of, because it does make a lot of noise. Maybe we'll have the name of this room be somewhere where perhaps a choir would perform. I've also adjusted the stairs to kind of shape more with the metal wall, and this will be the wall, though on this end section I'll probably have some sort of sloping curve to the roof, kind of like I have here. I've also added a lot of shaping along this corridor up to this bulkhead. Now, this one goes into what I imagine is going to be the main AI room. Now, what I'm thinking for this, and in fact, actually, let's go ahead and get the glass in place. A lot of this design is going to be me thinking through it and discussing it with you. So in between this episode and the next, by the way, I would welcome any feedback, any kind of suggestions on how I could adjust this. I really want this to be a really kind of community effort design, or at the very least one of the best designs that I've made personally. I'm going to put a lot of effort into this. We are going to go with alloy the 2 meter down, I think, and have that curve like that perhaps. I'm not sure. Ooh, maybe like this though. Yes, I kind of like that actually. And the middle one can be a much longer section. Oh yes, I like that a lot. That looks lovely. That'll be wonderful. Because you got to think of the ceiling as well. One thing I find in a lot of games, the level designers don't think about what you'll see when you look up. So it's usually just like a flat or at least a very bland experience. But the ceiling can be as interested in as the floor or the walls. Now, what I'm thinking for the AI in here, kind of taking from the Onyx Watch, which has dozens of AIs, I'm thinking of having more themed rooms in the sense of lore themed rooms. And in here, we will have the Council of AI. If you think of the AI not just as some sort of not quite intelligent, making maybe intelligent decisions, but has no sapience, no self-awareness, then, you know, that's more or less how I've had the AI in the ships before. But this ship will actually have full AI, or as the correct term, strong AI. AI that's capable of determining its own course of action, you know, deciding what it wants to do, not just how to do what it's been told to do. And what I'm thinking is having one main AI in the center, which is hooked up. In fact, let's go ahead and just plant that AI down. This will be the very first. This AI in the sort of center, which will be hooked up to the naval controls. This one will actually steer the ship and perhaps do other functions as well. And then we'll have lots of other AI kind of dotted around the place. These ones may be hooked up to actual functions. They might not. But these would be the Council of AI. So these would all be self-aware, all have their own personalities, and would all advise the main AI on what the best course of action is. Perhaps some of them would be tied to weapons control, that sort of thing. So they would be like the court. So the central AI would be the monarch of the ship, and then its court of advisors. And we'll obviously name them individually. And by the way, I would be happy to accept names. For the sake of naming the AI, I think we'll go with people who actually want to be named after the AI. So do let me know in the comments if you want to put your name down, and I'll just select at random. Or perhaps if you want to write a haiku or want to do anything creative, perhaps explain why you would be fitting for a role as advisor, or perhaps even the monarch of the AI, then I'll pick the one that amuses me the most. But I really do like the idea of just having the idea of the ship that this has real AI, you know, consciousnesses in digital form. At the back, we have some more doors, and we're going to add these in as well. Let me grab standard door. There we go. So this is the council chambers. Oh yeah, we could just call it the council chambers, I suppose, for the AI. And in fact, since you are the boss AI, we want you up on a throne. Let's make for you. What kind of throne would an AI want? Now, don't say utilitarian and efficient, because I choose to believe that AI would be equally capable of being vain. We will have... Perhaps the vanity would take a different aspect to human, or rather organic vanity. But I have absolute faith that an AI, especially an AI built like me, would be capable of vanity. Might be even more capable. It would have a much more efficient form of vanity. Let's go for something like this. There we go. But on the back, we would have smaller ones. Something like that, perhaps. Yes, I'm kind of liking it. We'll also do this. So, yes, this is a very, very fancy ship. And we'll continue to grow into an even more fancy ship, I am certain. And I would welcome any kind of advice or suggestions on how it could be made more fancy, there we go. Let's move this around a little bit and then have our Monarch AI right bang smack there. Oh, that's fantastic. We will have a bridge above this AI section, and this is kind of what I'm thinking of having out here. These would be the stairs leading up to the bridge, and we can actually even start doing that now, I suppose. We could expand this area, or perhaps this could just be hollow. There will be lots of cavities in this. What I'm thinking of doing is having like ablative armor and regular cavities with pumps in them and just repair drones, just to allow that if a shot does get through to this ship's actual hull, that even if it's a very powerful shot and pierces the armor, all it's going to expose is just a little one of many air pockets, or just shave off a layer of armor rather than actually going straight through. So for example, if this were going to be an ablative section, then I might use a lot of these sorts of components arranged in something similar to this, just running the length, and for no particular reason really, just because I think it has that kind of ready to shave away to prevent damage to a more important component look to it somehow. And that pattern would be reflected all the way through the cavity. Or it could just have like a small air pocket specifically there to help this thing stay afloat, because this is going to be enormously heavy. Enormously heavy. Down here, we have our resource area. And you know what? I think we're going to work on this one. This one is not going to be particularly fancy. I say particularly fancy because it is going to be fancy a little bit. I can't help it. Don't expect it of me. You will be disappointed. Let's pop down some fancy things around here. Is it going to work? Haha! Perfect. It works perfectly. Right, what about over here? Well, that's actually quite an ornate entryway anyway. So there's nothing more to do down there. But perhaps we would have right at the very back something a little bit more fancy than this. So something like that, and then we would have the 4-meter slope like this. There we go. Yes, I quite like that. Okay, so in here we want our resources. Or at least some of them. This one may be one of many, many resource rooms. Though, given that it's going to be under the AI, and I'm going to have quite a lot more depth to this vessel, even if it's just there to absorb damage before letting it pass through to functional components, it is going to have a lot more room below. But I have at least one lower deck that I want and one upper deck. Well, actually, the upper deck is literally going to be on the surface, on the deck of the ship. Then you've got the AI, the council chambers, then below that on the next lower deck, and kind of a larger chorus room will have the engine room, and then below this we're going to have another functional component which I'm going to leave as a surprise for later. And then perhaps below that we'll just have some cavities and ablative armor to weather any torpedo hits. But in here we can be relatively certain that if it's gotten to damage this component, then it's already done so much damage to the ship, we don't need to worry about it blowing up. It's already been ruined. So I'm thinking, should we go with just ammo barrels in here? Lots and lots of ammo barrels? I'm not sure that that is necessarily the nicest thing to look at. So perhaps what we'll do instead is we'll have, no, one more further in. We're going to have pillars, and the ammo barrels can exist surrounding those pillars, I think. No, we want them in somewhat of a more interesting configuration. And we'll have a central metal pillar going up through the middle there. Something along the lines of this, I think. Boom. So there we are. We'd have another one further down about... what's that in line with? Is it in line? Yes, it's in line with one of them. So I need this one to be in line. I don't want the barrels to be that close to the door. So it'll be in line with this one then. There we go. I could have one in line with the other as well, but then I wouldn't really have much room to move around it. So I would prefer to do it this way. And there we go. So there's some ammo barrels. We'll have ammo barrels stocked up against the walls as well, I think. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I've got to start from the bottom, I suppose. There we are. We've got that one along here. We'll have another one right there as well. Now, we're also going to want fuel in here. That is a definite. We definitely need fuel. We won't need much, because as you've noticed, the efficiency on the engine is mind-boggling. The amount of fuel it uses to produce the power that it produces is infinitesimal. This is some, super future tech fuel source that we're dealing with at this point. But ammo, we're going to need a lot of. Next, we will have fuel tanks. There's a little bit of a spot, I guess, on these sides. Let's rotate these around. So we'll have one there. So that gives us 4 in total. That is probably enough to run this ship for an incredibly long amount of time. We will also have a fuel processor, and for symmetry's sake, we'll have 2 of them. There we go. Next up, I think we are going to want... Yes, I do actually quite want some spares crates as well. How about we actually put the spares crates at the base of the ammo pillars? That would actually look quite nice in my opinion. Yes, perfect. I quite like it. We could even build it up a little bit more on the inside. I'm not sure. Spares crates are a bit of an odd beast, really. Go on, we'll have some spares crates running alongside as well, like this. There we go. That'll do. Now we are going to want some ammo processors. We are going to have ammo processors in here. Not going to have, well, we could have a lot, actually. I mean, this is an enormous investment as far as ships go. Realistically, am I actually going to be doing myself a favor at all by gimping its ability to produce ammo? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think we'll actually even get rid of that shaping at the end there. We'll just have lots of ammo processors. We could even get away with having another on this side by going in here, grabbing metal blocks. Now we could either do something like this, where we have that connected against the wall there, or have a much sharper one by having the slope here. Let's turn that around. So that slope comes right the way back from the back. And actually, I think that looks better, so we'll go with that. So there we are. There's our ammo processors. That will take care of everything we need. But we will go back to the metal blocks, and we will actually have this diagonal beam. It's just, it'll be at the very top there, running the full length of the wall. I think that looks fine. That looks quite nice. We'll have some controls in here to run the ammo barrels. Maybe, in fact, we'll have some of the advanced control blocks in here. You know what? That actually makes a lot of sense. Why would we restrict the AI Council to just having actual AIs? Why not have some servant automated control blocks? Because these are not true AIs. Perhaps they lack the brilliance to become truly self-aware, but still the AI keep them around as servants to perform the more menial tasks that do not require the level of computational power that the AIs possess. So we would have a very, very simple, when ammo above a certain fraction, then ammo processors, infinite range, no delay. Turn off if we've got more than 50% ammo. There we are. And if we've got less than 15% ammo, then turn... Oh, no, actually, wait. What am I doing? That's derpy. I am a derp. It is true. Turn off. Yes, that's good. We want to control this one now. There we go. Right. When we have less than 15% of the ammo, then turn all of them on, and that should be good enough. Now, I may make a separate ammo storage room, much like this one, elsewhere on the ship. I quite like the idea of having these sorts of processing areas dotted around the ship rather than having one central one, though I'm not entirely comfortable with that design right at the back anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to run that a little bit closer. Then we're going to have one metal going up like so, and then maybe have a 2-meter slope. There we are. I think that looks a little bit better. Yeah, that looks much better in my opinion. There we are. So the resource room for this vessel is now created. Perhaps I could have another resource room right back here. This will be the rear of the... Oh, actually, no. I think this will be the front, come to think of it. The reason for that being that whilst the AI will be at the back, we'll have the stairs back here. I'm thinking we'll have them twist around and go back up in this direction. Or maybe even if the stairs do move back this way towards me right now, the bridge could still face in that direction. I kind of like that, having a large, wide open deck. And that actually ties into something that I wanted to do with the deck. I want the deck of this vessel to be able to refuel and, in fact, build aircraft. Now, before you get your hopes up, it's probably going to be a couple of episodes before I build any aircraft to go on it, even if I've made the launch pads. But I do want perhaps some sort of helicraft or maybe even some fighters. But I'm thinking more along the lines of short distance helicraft, so torpedo bombers, or maybe even, you know, something to take on enemy flyers. But something small that isn't really meant to operate very far away from its mothership. So this massive section here, where I wouldn't want to have anything burrowing down through the deck, would actually make sense for that, because I could fit maybe 2, possibly even 3 helipads running along the deck. It is going to be much wider than this, though. The actual ship is going to be probably out here in terms of width at certain sections. I will probably have it shaped much like the Kunanun, in that it'll have a kind of a wave shape moving along the length of the vehicle. And at the front over here, we're going to have some powerful weapons. 3 actual forward-facing weapons, though 2 of them will be able to rotate. The third will be fixed and will only be facing forward, but it is going to be monstrously powerful, or at least in my mind, I hope it will be. The cannons will be quite beastly, but well, I've already kind of given away that it's not going to be a cannon, I suppose. The laser system, yes, I'm going to make an offensive laser. That's the reason why it's going to be fixed in position. It will only be able to fire where the ship is looking, and that's kind of why we need such an enormously powerful engine, as I'm hoping to make a seriously powerful, very long, well, not necessarily super long range, but a powerful at-range continuous laser. I couldn't quite do it for our fortress, so I think I'm going to do it for this ship. And, you know, the Onyx Watch made a point in their lore of saying, well, we don't like shields, we don't like lasers. So, yeah, well, this thing's going to be covered in both. Well, at least covered in the shields. It'll have a laser, but it'll definitely be covered in the shields. But I think that's enough waffling on. We've made a command room for the AI, and we've made an engine room and a resource room. We're going to make more. But this is going to be a very large undertaking. This is a small part of the ship, I would say. I would estimate that the ship is going to possibly be maybe twice as long as this. So this long again. Probably have maybe half as much or as much depth again below deck. And easily half as much, probably more though, height above deck. Definitely for the forward cannons. And it's going to be bristling with weapon systems along the side as well. We are making a proper battleship. Everyone has said, Aavatar, even your biggest ships are tiny. Well, I aim to fix it with this one. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, though. I've waffled on a lot. It's mostly been planning, but I hope it has excited you. But do let me know if you like the fact that I've included you in the design and the actual idea formation component of this build. Usually I already have a pretty solid idea of what I'm making when I start these things, but this time I've been making this idea up as I go from just a central core sort of thought, and I've been allowing it to develop. As we've seen in Robocraft, when I take my creativity off its leash, it tends to make unintentionally amazing things. I just need to stop trying to be efficient. But that is going to be it from me for now. So thank you very much for joining me and for listening to me waffle on about my ideas. I hope you have enjoyed. And again, do let me know what you think about this kind of episode, because if this is all right, then we may do it a little bit more in the future. But until next time, and as always, do take care.